Hello, my quilting friends. Leah Day here with episode 44 of the podcast. And today I want to share something a little different. I really have a lot going on, a lot of quilts in progress, and I'd like to share a little bit about that and also check in on my goals, my word for the year, and how I'm planning to challenge myself for the month of February. Kind of big news there, and just share generally about what's going on around the house, what we're up to. I just don't really feel like taking on a great quilting debate this week. Kind of nothing came to mind, nothing really sparked that debating side of myself. So I figured this would be a good week to just share a personal update and check in on what quilts are going on, what's going on in my crafty cottage, what's going on in the house. So first thing, what am I working on today? I am working on this Love the Light whole cloth. This is one of the quilts in my book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting. And this is one of, honestly, the quilts that I love the most from that book. And this is the second time I've made it. And I got it to this stage done, but I never stitched the hanging sleeve on or the tag, the quilt tag on the back. So I need to hand stitch this in place. So this is what I'm working on right now. And if you'd like to see a picture of what I'm working on, you can come and check out the show notes, and I'll have this have a nice picture for you so you can see it. One quick reminder, just in case you're listening to the podcast and you have not checked it out on YouTube, we do have videos for every single episode, so you can see what I'm doing as I share the introduction, or in this case, the entire podcast. And I am working on trying to film the entire podcast whenever I have a special guest on. I'm trying to get to the point where I can record that too. It is a work in progress, as always. So yeah, I'm just stitching on this hanging sleeve, wanting to get this done. Doing the hanging sleeve and the name tag is always the last step, and it's the step that kind of just tends to hang around and not get done. And I had this quilt draped over the back of a chair in the living room for a month or two, probably longer than that. And I just figured, hey, I'll take it out here, and maybe by the time I get this podcast done, I will have this job done too. So I usually also have a handwork project going on in the evening, and yes, I am still working on that cross-stitch gingerbread house. It's like a little ornament. Here, I'll share a picture of it so you can see it, and you can also see this picture in the show notes too. So I have made a lot of progress on this little thing. I call it a thing. Just a lot of stitching, but I realized this week, looking at this project, that my heart is not really in it. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not that I don't care. I do care. I mean, I'm bothering to finish it, but I wonder when it's done, am I really gonna feel just so happy that I made it? There's some quilts that I've made that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so, like the one I'm working on, like Love the Light. I'm just so happy that I designed this and created it. And this little gingerbread house just doesn't have the same feeling. But I don't know. I still probably have about 2 weeks worth of stitching on this thing to finish it up. And then I'm planning on sending it off to have it finished and turned into an ornament. So with needlepoint, you can go to a really nice needlepoint store like the one in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and the Needle and Canvas, and they will send it off for you to have it finished. So I think that's what I'm going to do with that one, and maybe when I get it back all done up as a really nice ornament, then I'll be really happy with it and pleased that I spent so much time on it. I think the main problem with that project is it just has taken so much time, and it felt really slow in comparison to the really intense embroidery that I made of Express Your Love. And that just felt like it flew by, even though, I was working on that for months and months, but it just felt like the progress was going faster. So I don't know, I think that's just one of those mental perceptions that is kind of funny. It might just be the nature of cross stitch too. It's just slow and steady work. And I also have just so many UFOs, unfinished projects waiting to be stitched next, and one of them is another Express Your Love. I have multiple versions of that quilt, and it needs about 1 million 1-inch hexies stitched together, and I've actually been looking forward to that. So that lets you know a cross stitch is not high on my list of things I really love doing if I would rather go stitch hundreds of 1-inch hexies together instead. So I'm looking forward to, changing projects. My evening project, definitely. That's definitely one of those things that I'm looking forward to moving on from cross stitch very soon. So that's what I've been working on in the evening. During the day, all last week, I was working on this quilt. So the quilt behind me is called Wonderland, and it is a beautiful collection of snowflakes surrounding a big giant center snowflake. Definitely come and see this picture in the show notes. This is one of my, honestly, it's one of the most special quilts I feel like I've ever made. It's very different from anything I've ever made. I've never made another quilt like it. It uses a very unique technique called reverse shadow trapunto that I created to simplify shadow trapunto, a technique I learned from Karen McTavish. So what I've been working on, the quilt has been done since 2010, so I've not been working on the quilt, I've been working on the quilt pattern. So this was a pattern I wrote a long time ago, and I went back to the original blog posts that I shared on this, and it was kind of like time travel, you know? I love that I have the blog to look back on all the things that happened so many years ago, and time has really flown by. I mean, it really doesn't feel like that was nearly 10 years ago, but it was. And sometimes it's hard to remember when things happened. And I just remember that first year sharing the blog and sharing, those first, 60 to 70 free motion quilting designs. It just went by in a blur. And James wasn't even 3 years old at the time, so he was really little, and I was trying to start the business and trying to blog and trying to shoot videos and doing it all by myself. Like, that was before Josh and I were working together too. So to me, it was just, I don't remember very much during that time, but apparently I was quilting quite a lot because I quilted all of these blocks separately. It's a quilt as you go quilt, and it was really an experiment. It was an experiment of that technique that I had, this idea for reverse shadow trapunto, and then it was also a challenge to see if I could use the designs that I'd created for the free motion quilting project and use them in the blocks. So it was really just an experiment. And by the time I had it done, it was kind of like, well, that experiment worked. And it was an afterthought to then turn it into a quilt pattern, and it was an afterthought to compete with it, and it actually competed really well. I won a big award at an AQS show for machine quilting for this quilt, so that was really exciting. It really helped us out a lot. That was 2011 that it went to AQS Knoxville, so that was a big deal. So yeah, I wrote that pattern in 2010, very early days, and I really didn't have a lot of skill with writing, and I talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. I really didn't have a lot of skill with writing. I knew how to tell you how to do something, but I didn't necessarily know how to write it in a way that was clear. And not to be critical, that quilt pattern, and Josh is always pointing this out to me, that quilt pattern did very well, and people took it and made quilts. They made Winter Wonderland quilts, and they competed with them, and they did really well. So clearly it wasn't so bad that people couldn't follow my instructions. But a lot of my skills have gotten a lot better, most importantly being photography, which I really worked on that skill over this past summer. And it's been a delight to now take the quilt and be able to shoot my own photos of it and really highlight the snowflakes, and then be able to take those photos into editing and play with them in Lightroom and get them looking really, really good. And I had an added challenge when I was working on the diagrams and the graphs that go with the pattern. I really wanted to update those. So for the first time ever, the snowflakes will be symmetrical. I know, that's awful. But the original snowflakes, I drew them by hand, and I drew them using a light box. And, they were symmetrical enough, but they weren't, they were hand drawings. They weren't 100% perfectly symmetrical. So for this quilt, I challenged myself to learn Illustrator. And this has been on my list for years, and I kept putting it off and kept putting it off. And every time I tried Illustrator on my computers, it would slow everything down. Illustrator CC is a Creative Cloud version, so you basically get the program as an app and pay a monthly fee, and it is expensive, and it drives me nuts that Adobe products are that expensive, but I'd have to say it's worth it. And this past Christmas, I bought a new computer just so I would be able to work with these programs and it not just slow everything down, just rock solid slow. So now I have enough memory in order to run the programs properly. And I have to say, just like photography, I wish I'd done this years ago. I really, really do. I wish I'd made this investment years ago, but I'm so happy that I've done it now, because creating those snowflakes, there was no way I could do them and make them symmetrical in the older program that I was using. I was using kind of just a knockoff program that worked well enough. I mean, it got me to this point, and it certainly helped me learn the basics of drawing on a computer. It was Serif Draw Plus, which is now obsolete and they don't even sell it anymore. But I was there while I was there, right? And that program worked for a time, but it certainly limited me on doing things like symmetrical drawings, like what I've done with these snowflakes, and basically creating shapes and building shapes like that in Illustrator. And so once I realized how much faster it was and how much easier it was, and I'm getting the hang of it, the first few snowflakes took forever. They took like one snowflake took an entire day to draw properly. But then after that, once I stopped screaming at the program, once I stopped arguing with it, and we decided to be friends, then everything got faster and easier, and then all of the diagrams came together really quickly. And, it's always like that. It's a learning process with everything, and I am really happy now that I'm using basically the best program for the job and learning how to use it. And I think it's going to make a difference with all of my patterns and books moving forward. And the really nice thing that I found from creating the diagrams for my book is that once you create the diagram once, you can use it in everything. So I never have to make those diagrams for binding again. I never have to make a diagram for Quilt As You Go again. I've already got them. I can recolor them and play with them and, make them look different in every book. But I basically can use the same graphic to teach the same thing over and over again. So that makes me really happy. I love it when I can save time with something like that. And if you look at carefully, go through your quilt books, and you'll see the books that are published by the same publisher, so let's say C&T or AQS or F&W Media, they will reuse the same graphics too. So almost every tension graphic where you're, how to adjust your tension so it looks right, almost every single one is identical across all the books because they just reuse the same graphic. So I love that. I'm acting like a professional publisher. Being a self-publisher is always one of those things. You got to figure out how to make it work. And that was one of those things. So that made me feel really good. I feel solid on on Illustrator now. The last program that I really need to master is InDesign, because actually Microsoft Publisher has been what I've been using to create my patterns, and one of my books has actually been laid out in Publisher. So I really need to learn InDesign next, and master that program, because if I master that one, then I will really have all the elements of graphic design under my belt, and that will really be solid. So it feels exciting. Now I have to say, there are certain days that I am in a totally terrible bad mood about having to learn something new. It's like, oh my gosh, Leah, why didn't you learn this 10 years ago? Why didn't you master these programs instead of, buying some rinky-dink cheap software? And the reason was, I didn't have the money for it. And I didn't have the money for a new computer. And it still was, a challenge. And it was like, can we even do this? And is this a good idea? Is this a good investment in our business? And, it all comes down to looking long term. And I know I want to write more books. I know I want to create more quilt patterns. And I know I want to work more quickly. And I think fighting with that old program, and it was really starting to get glitchy and like shut down on me and not save things properly. I mean, that seemed more dangerous and more of a chance of losing my work and wasting time by staying with the old program than innovating and going with the newer program. And, it is always a balancing act, though, choosing to make that investment or saving the cash. It's always one of those things. And the lucky thing is Josh, he is the frugal one of the two of us in the business. And so whenever Josh is saying, yes, let's make this investment, you need it, I need it, he's going to learn InDesign, then I know, if Josh is saying yes, then usually it's a good idea. So after a lot of work and fiddling and lots of learning on my computer, I finished up this new Winter Wonderland quilt pattern, and you can find it at leahday.com/winter. I'm really pleased with how this came out. And as I said, a lot of quilters made it when I first shared this pattern in 2010, and many people competed with this quilt and won awards at shows. In order to compete and aim to win a ribbon, it's good to create something different that judges haven't seen a million times before. And, reverse shadowed trapunto is, even just a whole cloth quilt with trapunto is unusual. But reverse shadowed trapunto really takes it up a notch. So I hope that you'll come and check out this pattern and learn how to do this with me. I am really thinking about making another quilt like this and designing something new, maybe with sunshines. That would be a lot of fun, something to work on this summer. So I received a lot of sweet comments this week on YouTube and via email, and I have a few I just want to share with you. So one on YouTube, I shared a video teaching stippling on a home machine and a long arm. And Julie commented, I love that you showed the same technique on both a home sewing machine and a long arm. That was fun and educational to watch. And that was really my goal. I feel like there's a big split, like almost a mentality split between the two machines, like, oh, long armers are long armers and home sewing machiners are home sewing machiners, that kind of thing. And now that I have the long arm set up, I feel like all of that is pretty silly because it's just a machine. Really, it's just a machine. And as I said in the video, when I first pulled out the long arm and shared the first video on using it, I wish I'd done that years ago. It does feel faster, it does feel easier, and it is a very different style of quilting, but that doesn't make it bad. It's just a different way of finishing quilts and being able to do more faster with less, with less effort, with less strain on my body. So that was really sweet. And I was a little nervous about sharing that first video on the long arm, and I'm really happy with the response so far. And basically it's going to be kind of a mini series on Saturdays or Sundays. I'll be sharing these videos and sharing a little tutorial on the home sewing machine, how to quilt a design, and then we take that same design and stitch it out on the long arm. I'm going to show you how that works, how that might be a little bit different. And I'm probably going to be showing you some seriously ugly stitches along the way because I am still very much learning how to move the long arm with control. So be looking forward to more posts like that. I got another really nice comment about the book, and this was from Rose. She said, "Hi Leah, I have your book and love it. Just put it down. I should be in bed. I have decided after I catch up on UFOs, I'm going to do the sun quilt that's in the book. Although I'm new to quilting, I love the piecing, but I have not completed a whole quilt yet. I have 4 quilts to do my quilting on, and I'm practicing free motion quilting for them. I think I may start this weekend. Wish me lots of luck. Love your work and your book." So that was really sweet. I think that she's talking about this quilt. Love the light. I'm pretty sure that's the one she was talking about. And I received another really kind comment on YouTube, and this was from Doreen, and she said, "Watching your work has made me try things I wouldn't before. Thank you so much." And I gotta say, there is no higher praise than that, really. My goal is to help you figure out how to do things. My goal is to help you be a good quilter, and it really means a lot to me when I know that I'm being effective, when I'm doing my job and helping you finish your quilts. It's one thing to piece tops, and I thought about this a lot when I was working on the Basting Basics workshop just recently, and why I feel like it's so important to get quilt tops basted and quilted. And I pulled out one of my grandmother's quilts. It was either made by my great-grandmother or grandmother. And I pulled this quilt out and I shared it in that workshop. And one of the things that I talked about was just like, if that quilt top had been left as a top, it would have been thrown away long before I was born, you know? And because she finished it, and it wasn't spectacular quilting, it was literally straight line stitched right across the quilt. The absolute most simplistic utilitarian quilting that there is. But I don't care how it was quilted. I love the fact that I have a piece of one of my grandmother's or great-grandmother's still. So, you know, it's one thing to leave behind quilt tops, which probably won't be kept. Most people don't know how to turn a quilt top into a finished quilt. And think about it in terms of a daughter or a daughter-in-law being left with a stack of stuff she doesn't know how to deal with. Eventually, she's going to throw it away. But a quilt, I don't know anyone that would throw a quilt away, you know? And to have that in your family and passing it down, you never know what that will do for future generations. I mean, I'm a quilter now because I grew up with quilts like that one on my bed. I grew up sleeping under them. I grew up using them. I grew up staring at that patchwork going, how in the world did she do that? It was like a mystery. And that's what made me want to be a quilter, because I had that connection with quilts from my grandmothers. So yeah, it really helps to know that I'm effective at what I'm doing and I'm helping you guys, and I'm helping you try new things and push yourself. I really am rocking that Word of the Year challenge. It has been really helping me a lot already in just a month after the start of the year. Because, you know, it's one thing to feel like, you know, okay, learning something new or trying something new. It's another thing to embrace the challenge and to actually face it head on. Like, I don't expect this to be easy. You know, I think a lot of times these days, everything is like supposed to be easy for some reason. Easy and fast, easy and fast. It's not always easy and fast. Making a quilt can be slow and it can be tedious and time consuming. And I know I was complaining about my cross-stitching project taking so much time earlier, but you know, it's kind of like if I change my mentality and I go into it understanding and accepting that, hey, I took on that project, I accepted that it was going to take time and it be an effort to finish and to embrace that. So I really think it's important to have the right mentality. And that's what I've been working on a lot lately, is my attitude towards challenge. And it was kind of one of those funny things. My slogan that I've been like writing on things has been "Rise to the challenge of your life." And that, you know, that can be the quilt that I'm working on, the project that I'm working on, running my business. You know, it's challenging. There are times that I get nasty emails and nasty comments and people are spamming on my groups and I'm frustrated with Facebook and all of the negative, you know, and it's there. I don't talk about it and share about it because, hey, you know, that's the price of doing business. You know, the good, there is equal good and there is equal bad in equal measure. But that's the thing. It's a challenge, and I can either kind of get angry and resentful and, you know, mad at how hard some days can be, or I can rise to it and just say, hey, this is what I signed up for, and I'm not going anywhere, you know? This is what I want to do, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, and I wouldn't be doing so much of it, right? And in that vein, I was feeling this week just kind of tired and worn out, and like, just shared a lot of posts. I have a posting schedule right now. We're posting on Mondays and the podcasts on Wednesdays, and then another post for Marvelous Mosaic on Fridays. And then I added the extra post on Saturday for quilting on the home machine and the long arm. So it does feel like I'm doing quite a lot. And what gets hard, it gets hard whenever I feel like I'm doing so much and it feels like it's not making an impact. So it really does help when I get comments like that that are so supportive and sweet. That really does make my day. I know that sometimes it might feel like if you contact me, that it just goes off into the ether. But no, I really do see those comments, especially YouTube. I take the time to answer all of those comments when I'm walking on the treadmill. So it's like I'm exercising and answering my comments at the same time. So yeah, comment more. I'm reading every single one, and I love it because then that makes my treadmill walking last a little bit longer, and so I get a better workout. So that really helps me out a lot too. So in the vein of challenge, this is the main thing that I wanted to share with you this month, and that is my big challenge that I'm taking on for the month of February. This is going to be huge. Actually, it already is huge. I'm going on a diet. And this has been a long time coming. I knew I needed to change my diet around Christmas time and needed to make a big change. And then a few days ago, I tried to put on a pair of jeans and they didn't fit. And that's kind of my benchmark. I do not go buy new pants. If I cannot fit in the pants that I own, then obviously I need to just tighten my belt and lose some weight. And I know the word diet isn't always a nice word to use. And certainly I know a lot of women can feel uncomfortable about that, but I'm just going to share with you the reasons why I've chosen the diet that I have, a little bit about it, and how I feel already. I started this diet about 6 days ago or so. So I'm doing Whole30, and you can read more about it at whole30.com. And the reason I chose it is because my sister went on it and she had amazing results. So we went to a beach birthday party last year and she was rocking her bikini. And she just had a baby like less than a year before. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go put on my wrap. So yeah, there was a little bit of like, oh my gosh, she looks really, really amazing. And I knew that she'd gone on this diet and then also really bumped up her exercise. And then all of a sudden, she's back down as thin as she was in high school and looking amazing. And so that really kind of got me thinking about it. And Whole30 is very restrictive. The list of no's is very long. It's easier just to tell you what you can eat. Meat, vegetables, and fruit. And that's it. And so that means no sugar. And so finding food to eat from the grocery store can be challenging because almost everything has some form of sugar in it. So that's been an adventure. And I'll be honest, I talked about in January how I stopped drinking, and I've not had a drink in more than a year now, which feels amazing. But I think the true addiction of my life is sugar. I've struggled with it all my life. I've struggled with it since I was a little girl. I was just, cookie monster, really. The second that we would get cookies or anything sweet in the house, it would be gone in a day. And that kind of forbidden fruit effect really, it took hold in college when, right downstairs there was a candy bar machine and I could go grab a candy bar and kind of give myself a reward every time I read a page in my biology textbook, which I did. I had no self-control and I got really, really sick in college. So I've already been on hardcore elimination diets before, and I know how this works. But it was really cutting out alcohol that I started kind of sublimating that, that desire to have a drink of alcohol. I would go eat cookies instead. So I've kind of made myself sick again the same way that I did in college. And then also I haven't really worked on the core issues behind why I want to go drink or why I want to go eat that cookie in the first place. Like, what is the emotion behind that? And there is always emotion behind that, whether it's I want to relax or I deserve this or, any of the millions of excuses that are there behind it. So cold turkey, just like with drinking, I cut it off cold turkey last Wednesday. No more sugar. And I usually drink sugar in my tea, in my coffee. I usually have a cookie every night, after dinner. And yeah, cold turkey and 100% cut off is how I work. I'm very much like we are divorced. It is over. I'm separated and I'm not looking back. And so far that's working good as far as like my mentality about it. It's like, it's not going in my mouth. I am not eating that. Now, the flip side of that is I certainly feel weird. An instantaneous going from like eating a lot of sugar to eating none at all, my body is going through withdrawal, like crazy withdrawal, like the same way that I felt when I stopped drinking. It's not like I had been drinking that much, but you know, your body learns to crave something and it wants it. And so I looked it up yesterday, and yeah, it's called Keto Flu or Carb Flu. And basically, it's the detox of my body without carbs, without sugar to burn. And I feel pretty strange. I'm a little irritable. And let's just say my emotions are kind of like highs and lows, like in an extreme way. And I'm trying my best. And that word challenge is beating a tattoo in my head. It really is. But I feel like I'm starting to come out from that carb flu. My body isn't hurt as much as it does. I kind of had like this twingy headache for about 4 days, and that was really annoying. But odd thing was I could not take anything for it. If I took Advil, it would just kind of laugh at it, like the headache was not going away. But when I ate something like avocados, then it would go away completely on its own. So that was definitely a headache caused by the diet. I was kind of achy in real weird ways. Like my knuckles all of a sudden started to hurt for like an hour and then it went away. So it's just very strange symptoms of getting the sugar out of my body. Yesterday I had this very bad taste in my mouth. It was like, I feel like I've just drank fingernail polish remover. Just unpleasant. So anyway, yes, not pleasant, but as you can tell, I feel good. I mean, I feel like I'm starting to turn that corner, and that feels really good. And then I think the longer that I've gone without sugar, the more proud of myself I am. You know, there's that feeling like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I could do this. I didn't think I could go a week without eating sugar in my tea or in my coffee. I didn't think I could go a week without having a cookie or, you know, and we've still got sugar in the house. I mean, it's still there and it's still in front of me and I'm still seeing it. And James is eating his cookie in front of me. But there was something written on the Whole30 website that I really liked. And I liked their really no-nonsense approach to the diet and how they wrote about it. And that was, there was like a frequently asked questions. And it was like, what if I slip up? And the answer was, there is no such thing as slipping up. You know, this is a choice. What you put into your body, what you put into your mouth is always a choice. No one force feeds you anything. And I love that. And they said, unless you trip and face plant into a pizza, there is no reason to slip up on, you know, ever on this diet. And I just really like that. And so kind of whenever I'm feeling tempted, I just imagine face planting into whatever I'm tempted by. And I don't know why, but for some reason, that mental image, it keeps me from eating what I shouldn't be eating. It really does. Another thing I really like about this diet is that you don't get on a scale for 30 days. You know, this is not a weigh-in, check-in, score yourself, you know, judge yourself kind of thing. And, you know, and it's not my goal to lose weight. And I talked to my sister about this, and she really gave me the inspiration for that. She said, it's not about losing. Losing sounds bad anyway. You know, it sounds like we're, you know, losers or whatever. Her advice was look at it as gaining strength, you know, gaining strength from eating better and gaining strength from exercising and gaining strength from feeling better, all of that. I really like that mentality. So I'm not getting on a scale. It's not about the amount that I lose. It's about fitting in my pants and getting my body looking better. And I want to look good in a swimsuit this year. I really do. And it's not like I look that bad. And I know that there are going to be people saying things like, you're so skinny already. You don't need to lose any weight. But this is something that's very personal. I mean, if you're not happy with your body, this is something that you can do something about. And I'm not happy with my body. I'm not happy with how it looks. So I'm going to do something about it. And February is my month. I'm challenging that idea that, how I look is permanent. I can do something about it. And I'm not going to eat sugar, dairy, wheat, any kind of wheat alternative, any of the gluten-free stuff, because I've been pretty much gluten-free for almost a year now. So none of that stuff, just meat and vegetables and fruit. And that's it. And that's okay. I have found that pecans, I like nuts a lot, and I fall back on that a lot. I will be sharing a recipe every week in our newsletter. So that way, if you're inspired to try this, even in a small way, and you want to follow along, I'm going to share some Whole30 recipes in our weekly newsletter, which you can check that out at leahday.com/newsletter. So sign up there and you can start getting those weekly emails. And then I'm also going to share a 10-minute workout from another YouTuber. So I hate working out. I think I've said that before in the podcast. I hate working out. I hate getting sweaty. I hate everything to do with that. But I realized a while ago that I really lost a lot of the strength that I had. I mean, I used to do all kinds of physical stuff. I worked at a bronze foundry. I was hauling metal around all over the place. And I went to go pick up something heavy and I expected to be able to lift it and I couldn't. So I really have not been taxing myself physically for a while. I quilt all day or work on the computer all day. Really not much. So I'm going to start doing 10-minute workouts every evening, and I can do 10 minutes. I found my sister shared with me this really good YouTuber called Model Pilot, and they are hardcore workouts. But I feel like I'm getting a lot done in 10 minutes. And hey, it helped my sister get her really beautiful body, so I think it'll help me too. And I'm hoping that Camille will come on the podcast and talk with us about her diet and how that worked out and how it changed. So I've been talking to her about that. Maybe she'll be on the podcast sometime this month. That'll be really fun to have her on. So that's my big challenge for February, and I'm really excited about it. I'm not feeling this good every day. Certainly yesterday I was feeling really tired and kind of just up and down emotionally. I'm just coming back to those words: rise to the challenge of your life. And accept that it's a challenge, accept that it's going to be hard. I'm not going into it thinking that it's going to be easy. It's not. I want sugar. I am used to having sugar in my coffee. I'm used to having sugar in just about everything. And it's hard to find sausage without sugar in it. It's hard to find bacon without sugar in it. And then I'm having to cook a lot more, which I love to do. So that's actually been making me really happy. So it's just a total adjustment and figuring out how to work that into my life and into my lifestyle so I have time for everything, and I feel like it's supporting me and I'm supporting it. And I think the most important thing, if you decide to try this diet, is don't starve yourself. I eat. I like to eat, and I do not believe in starvation at all. And on this so far, I've been eating, chowing down on nuts, chowing down on pecans, and I'm eating 3 big meals a day and then having lots of snacks in between. So I don't think that that's a bad thing at all. And I think it's all about just cleaning up the diet and dealing with the sugar addiction once and for all, and letting that go for good. And I do think that this is going to probably end up a lot like alcohol for me, where it's just 100% abstinence. That's it. That's how I work. So I feel like this was a worthy challenge, and I'm really happy that I took it on. And if you are at all curious or interested in following along, you can of course check out this diet at Whole30.com. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about this personal update from me and learning about what I'm doing and what's going on around the house. It's all a process, and I've been really tapping into and listening to what I need. And as you can tell, a great quilting debate really was not what I needed this week. That would have been really challenging to debate something when I'm feeling fairly vulnerable, because, changing what I'm comforted by, the foods that I've gone to over and over again for years for comfort, I've taken them out of my diet now, and I'm learning how to make dates and pecans, my go-to comfort food, which is actually working out pretty good. So I feel really optimistic about this, and I cannot wait to have a rockin' body this spring. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I think that is something that I have never actually said. I have never gone after that before, but I really want that now. And I think it's having the confidence and reaching that point with self-esteem to say, I can have that. And it's not a bad thing to want that. And I want to look my best. I want to look healthy, and I want to feel healthy too. And that means rising to this challenge, taking it on, and meeting it face first. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode and hearing about my life and my plans for this big challenge in February. It's going to be hard, but it's also going to be an amazing experience. And I know I'm going to learn a lot in this process. So I hope that you'll check in with me every week and join our newsletter. You can check that out at leahday.com/newsletter. So that way you can get the recipes that I find on Pinterest. I'm just going to link up some stuff that I like, and also links to workout videos that I have found helpful. And then of course you always get in the newsletter, you always get the updates of what we've shared on the blog, what we've shared in the podcast, all that good and good stuff. So make sure to subscribe to that newsletter, and don't forget to come and check out the Winter Wonderland quilt pattern, which is back available, updated, brand new at leahday.com/winter. So that's it for this episode. Remember, you can find all of the podcast episodes that we've shared so far at leahday.com/podcast. Until next time, let's go quilt.